What is sin? Now that is a big question from a biblical perspective. Sin is a key theme in the Bible, starting way back in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, all the way through to its final destruction in the last chapter of Revelation. Early on in life, whether we are religious or not, we are introduced to the idea of right and wrong. And as this idea develops, it usually matures into the concept of good and evil. We live in societies where there is a basic agreement on the essential rights and wrongs. We describe this as our societal values or morals. The Bible lifts these ideas up to another level, literally. It introduces the idea that morality, the definition of good and evil, is absolute, and it is defined by God Himself. Consequently, when we fail to live up to these defined morals, we're not just offending a fellow human, we're in fact offending the very creator of all humans, God Himself. And so from a biblical perspective, sin can simply be defined as disobedience to God's laws or commandments, God's definition of good. Every time we do what God says we shouldn't do, or do what God says we should do, we break His law and commit a sin. John says in 1 John 3 verse 4, everyone who sins is breaking God's law, for all sin is contrary to the law of God. God's law is the written declaration of good and evil. And when we ignore God's definition of good and evil, His law, and choose to live by our own rules, we sin. Sin is only possible because we have been given the gift of free will. This is the ability that we have to choose between obeying or disobeying, following God's will or following our own will, sacrifice or self-satisfaction, revealing our own nature or revealing God's nature, life or death. Free will is also the unique characteristic we have that gives us the potential to show God's glory. Without free will, we could not reveal the qualities of God, such as love, mercy, and patience. Love cannot exist, as we've said before, where free will does not exist. God gave us free will so that we could have the choice to reveal His glory or not. Sin, you see, was the risk that God was willing to take in giving His human creation free will. God wanted love. He wanted a world filled with His glory. For this to be possible, He needed to create a being with the potential to either sin or to live to glory.